coming towards the end of the tour now.
Yeah.
How do you think it's all gone?
Good. It's been kind of a weird one. There's been lots of cities that we maybe haven't gone to for a while. I sort of feel like we kind of filled in the gaps. Like we did a kind of big tour when the album came out in June, July time, and this tour's kind of gone to. I mean, we've still gone to like Sheffield and Cardiff and those sort of bigger cities, but we've done a lot of smaller places. We've been to Crewe and Preston for the first time, in Derby. Gone back to Leicester and Exeter and stuff, and obviously Southampton's, I guess, big cities who we've been here weirdly frequently in the last kind of year. But, yeah, it's sort of been a slightly weird though, because it's slightly off the beaten track, at least for us.
Yeah.
Which has kind of positives and negatives, I guess. Like positives being that it's kind of fun, it's more of an adventure to go to places that you haven't maybe been for a while, and also sometimes if you play a show in like York or something, you get the feeling. Like I grew up in Scotland and there weren't that many shows where I grew up, so when a show did kind of come to town, it was kind of an event. Yeah. Like I think you could certainly sense that, like in some of the cities, it's quite different to playing Manchester or Leeds or London, where there's several gigs every night. Yeah. So it's been fun. I think as winter sets in, we're really feeling maybe like our van is fucked. It doesn't have any heaters or anything, so we're all sitting in the back. I'm still wearing a scarf, like just wrapped up and shivering, which has been kind of bleak. But equally, it's been good to get out again, and it's been.
I know you play with an extra member when you play live.
Yeah.
Sometimes do you find it difficult for some songs to reproduce or recreate something in the live setting that you've recorded?
Not too hard, actually. I think it's always in the back of our minds when we're recording. I think Pete Miles, who made the new album, actually kept sort of telling us, stop thinking about playing this live. Like, let's just think about making the record sound good. And we kept going, yeah, but who's going to actually play that part? Because none of us can even do this, like, except, after 60 goes, So I think it's something that we always have in the back of the corner of our minds, how we're going to do it. And I think having Rick, who's our fifth member, gives us the, it's made things okay. I don't think there's anything that is on the record that we don't attempt live. There's bits that maybe will be a bit more pared down or slightly shifted around, but we'll try and fit everything in. I think also with the wonders of, we've always kind of had laptops and program stuff as well, so if we got really stuck, I'm sure we would maybe think about having bits and pieces kind of on, programmed into samples you can hit and stuff, but so far it's been okay.
So what do you think someone coming to their first session trying to expect?
Oh man, no, it's good. Yeah, it's weird. Like I've met quite a few people on this tour who've just sort of been dragged along by a friend or whatever, and who seem to have thought it was okay. They come and told them they thought it was okay afterwards, so I guess that's positive.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, it's supposed to be like an enjoyable experience. I think like, we're trying to make it kind of fun and energetic and engaging, I suppose. Generally, there's a lot of sweating, and a lot of kind of. I think one of the things that I really like about our band is that we're just normal people. We're not kind of posturing as like emo stars or like indie hits or something. We're just kind of the same as everyone else. So I always liked with the Clash, they always kind of talked about how the people on stage are exactly the same as the people in the audience. So I think that's probably something that kind of is borne out by my experience of our shows anyway. Like, I think you could easily take someone from the audience and put them on stage and you wouldn't be able to say, oh, this guy doesn't look right in the band. I think we're sort of maybe unassuming to look at, but usually, hopefully, once we start playing, it's kind of, you'll have a good time.
Yeah. So Wages Fear seems to go down pretty well, but having taken such a long time to record that, do you think it met your expectations of how it went down?
Yeah, I think it exceeded them. We really found ourselves kind of we felt quite sort of marginalised. I think that we was out of the game, I guess, for so long. I mean, we played shows, but we weren't doing press particularly, and to be honest, no one really cared. Like people kind of thought, oh well, they'll sort of give up eventually. I think. So I mean, our expectations were pretty scattered. We didn't know whether it was going to go really well or no one was going to give a shit at all, or or anything. And I think we also were very kind of insular making that record, like the new one. We didn't really have anyone out because no one cared, you know. Like we sort of had, we didn't really feel like anyone was expecting anything particularly. So it got quite weird, you know. You kind of lose when you make a record. You listen to everything thousands of times, and you lose all perspective.
Yeah, you come too close.
Yeah, and you just can't tell if it's good or bad or just awful or anything. So it was gratifying and pleasing, I suppose, that some people seem to engage with it. I mean, I think you always feel like you could do better. We certainly, you know, you feel frustrated occasionally when you play to 20 people in Derby and you're like, I wish things were better, you know, I wish this was not like as bleak as it is, you know, and then you get back into your van and you're really cold. But considering where we all were, you know, a year ago, it was pretty great. Like exactly what we wanted. Sort of the last 4, 5, 6 months have been doing what we always wanted to do, which is properly being in a band. So in that sense, it's going pretty well.
Yeah. You have a lot of literary references in your music, useful to Shakespeare and Keats. And I think like one of your main appeals, well, I think is how you like take that and use a lot of themes and ideas from like a modern perspective. It's just might sound a bit obscure, but like wondering like what comes first, if you use that as a direct influence or whether you have an idea and then use that, like delve into that.
Other stuff, yeah, sort of mine it. I think it's a bit of both, really. Like a lot of the literary stuff on this record just is in there because it was in my mind. Like I was finishing my degree, which is in English literature. So I had those books all around me. Like I was living in a tiny room and they were literally piled around me, kind of insulating my bedroom. So I kind of couldn't help but have it to hand if you see what I mean. And there were some songs like Edith, for example. I mean, that was sort of, Edith Wharton starts off as kind of the jumping off point for that song, and then it kind of, I think, kind of leaves her behind. Yeah. Like, I mean, obviously the title makes it seem like it's all very literary and whatever, but really I just sort of go, Edith Wharton, and then run away from the issue. And I mean, that came about because I read The Age of Innocence and put it down and went, oh my god, like, how could this woman who's dead and, you know, sort of pretty out of fashion know exactly how this feels, like, you know, in 2010 or whenever it was I wrote it. Like, I was kind of just blown away, and I just wrote down the first line and just kind of went off from there. And then there are sort of other things, like maybe Freud linked the teeth and the heart, and just sort of maybe kind of, like I started writing this weird, I basically just had having awful wisdom teeth pain for months, and I sort of had this weird riff. I was basically trying to work out how to finger pick a bit better than I could. So I'm a pretty terrible guitarist, and I wanted to try and improve. And I was messing around, and then I thought, I've always had a kind of a weird soft spot for the really, people pour scorn on like Kate Nash's lyricism, like the first record. I just remember hearing the Mouthwash song. You know, where she's like, the chorus is like, I use mouthwash, sometimes I've lost. I've got a family and I drink cups of tea. And it's ridiculous. Like, that's mad. But equally, it somehow is more than the sum of its parts. Yeah. And I don't know whether it's her, like the way she sings it, or her personality coming through it, or whatever, but I really like that very sort of banal, you know, documentation of life, and it makes it romantic, it makes it meaningful. Which is sort of, again, actually about where Edith is talking about that, like the feeling that your normal life just isn't really exciting, you know. And I thought it'd be fun to try and write a song like that, which is where Freud linked the teeth and the heart came from. I started writing about my teeth, and it's one of those mental connections, I guess, I just have in my mind. Like, if I just talk about teeth and teeth and dreams and stuff like that, people always go, oh, well, that's a Freudian trope, isn't it? And I kind of went, well, and Freud doesn't link the teeth in the heart. Like, that's just bullshit. It's just a complete corruption of what he said. But I just thought it'd be funny to make it sound like it was really kind of astute, educated, and it just feels silly. Well, not silly, but just peculiar. So
that's another thing as well about you sort of use that sort of start, like realism. kind of, I don't know if it's spirit in the song, but like, I can't really play it, but like, do you think there's anything that you teach? Well, not say teach you.
Oh, right,
kind of
I see. Okay.
You know.
I don't know. I mean, no, not at all. I don't think of myself just in any way in a position to say anything to anyone. You know.
Like.
Yeah. I like maybe the idea of there being a dialogue between a listener and a band. Like, I really lyrics that I've engaged with most over the last 10 years, I think, are bands that will maybe be slightly obscure. Like, I remember hearing that Idlewild song, Rosability, and he's talking about Gertrude Stein. And at the time I was like, okay, I've heard that name, but I have no idea who that is. And I remember looking her up, and then finding out a little bit more. And you're basically educating yourself, you know. It's just that someone sort of shows you a road sign, and you've gone, oh, look, down here, you know. Yeah. And like bands like Stapleton, a Scottish band that I just adore. They don't really do anything anymore, but Al Paxton, the singer from that band, like writes very sort of weirdly kind of hidden lyrics, like, and he has a little wordplay and puns, but it's quite funny in some ways. But you listen to it and you're like, what's going on here? It's very difficult to penetrate. But actually, if you can find a lyric sheet, or if you can just listen to it a million times, suddenly you go, oh my gosh, that's what this is, and you can kind of. I like the idea of sort of having to do a bit of detective work. Yeah. Like, it's not just being like, I love her, the moon is so shiny, oh, look at the stars. And whenever in any, like, there's maybe a couple of times on the first Tellison record that I feel like I copped out a bit lyrically. Like, I feel like I didn't push myself to make something that had that depth. And I really wanted with this one to do the work and give it something, try and have something behind the words, something a bit more real, you know, something that's a bit more engaging than just a pop, just a totally throwaway pop song. Because, I mean, the genre we write in, for the most part, is quite, you know, full poppy. Yeah. And people kind of go, well, that's just trash, isn't it? Music, it's not really anything, you know. There are people that love it, I'm one of them, but people sort of go, oh, well, it's not, you know, intellectual, or it's not whatever, like, it's seen as, I guess, kind of stupid or wasting time or easy or something. But I like the idea of pairing that with something that has an awful lot of stuff behind it. Sorry,
so going back to the literature thing, is there any particular literary like movement that you think you'd align yourself with?
Oh wow, man, good question. No, I'm way too, I think, derivative to do that, I suppose. I think I just a bit of a magpie. Like, I find things I like. I've never, you know, like the bits on the record that are taken from. I mean, I'm really, I guess, a product of my degree. Like, stuff that was like from Greek tragedy right up to postmodernism, you know, and kind of posthumanism, which is what I wrote a little bit about when I was at university. But I don't know. I think I like the idea, I suppose, to maybe just completely deny what I've just said, of like that detective work thing, I think, which is a postmodern idea that everything is just a bit of a mess. Yeah, exactly. And like, but somehow you can pick out relationships between completely disparate notions and ideas and sit them together, and that you can make meaning. You know, things don't have to be kind of immediately clear, but but you can somehow like pair things back or stick things together and find truth and beauty and whatever else. I never thought of myself as sitting inside any kind of schools or anything like that.
Do you think that writing music for you has become easier or more fluent as time's gone on, or do you think that maybe it's harder to sort of start fresh and start something?
I think it's got harder. I think I got better at knowing the craft. Maybe like you learn you kind of find a tool set, a kind of skill set, I suppose, a toolbox of things, tricks and ideas and techniques you can use. But I find it, like you say, it's difficult to be fresh, and I think I also second guess myself. I'm not. With the first record, there were bits that were just completely instinctive. Didn't even think about it. Like, it just happened, and we went, well, that's obviously what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
And with this record, we went, well, why? You know, is that
Yeah.
boring? Are people going to be bored by that? Are we
Yeah.
bored by that? Am I bored playing this?
Yeah.
You know, and you kind of just, and we threw away so many songs because we kind of attacked it with a very critical eye.
Yeah.
And we definitely, I think, lost. Like I think our new record is a lot more kind of mid-paced.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot more kind of steady, which is fine. It's very solid, but it lacks maybe that sort of spark of just kind of, hey, I'm 16 and I'm just going to turn on the distortion pedal, you know?
Yeah.
Which the first record has, and we sort of, I listened to it a few times when making this record and tried to work out how that had come about. It's not something I could recreate artificially.
Would you say that you write very quickly, or that you have to sort of keep on going back? Because some people will say like write something days and then like keep on coming back to it.
I vary. I think like Edith was written in about 10 minutes, and that on my own, and I brought it to the band, and I played the riffs. And I think Andy and Pete and like all of them just played their parts as they are on the record. You know, kind of that was the first thing they did. And we went, well, that's the song then. yeah, it's really weird. But then there'll be other songs that we'll slave over. The last track on the album, My Wife's Grave, started off as me on my own with the practice room messing around, and then we just weren't sure. We tried a different instrumentation and back and forth, and it's like weird versions of it. And I know Pete was a real skeptic. Like he was just not sure whether it was right for a long time, but in the end we kind of hammered it out.
Kind of surprising. That seems like one of the most minimal songs.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. But it's funny, you sort of try loads of things and then go, what if we just take all of that junk out? You're glad you did it because now you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and there are songs that we built, you know, sort of physically, brick by brick, almost. Like Henry and I. I guess we're quite lazy sometimes when we're writing songs. We'll be playing them for a bit and we'll get tired, or Henry, like I'll be hungover, or Henry will be like, I have to go away and do something. So then with this record, we did a lot of messing around with computers, you know, just sitting around a table or on a sofa, kind of MIDI, making like weird MIDI versions of all the songs, and weird stuff happens when you do that. You make mistakes, so you copy and paste something into where it shouldn't be, and then suddenly you're like, whoa,
and then
what's that bit? Yeah. And with our band, like, it's often been that kind of, sometimes mistakes make it into the onto the record, but you know, they're turned into, we pretend that we meant all along and stuff. So.
Are there any bands or artists that maybe you hadn't heard a year ago that really grabbed you?
On this tour, I've been listening to a band called Algiers, which is Will from Darts and John from the Maple State. They started a band together. We played with them twice now, I think. They played the Sheffield date, and they just put an EP out. And so good. I listen to it like 3 times a day, every day on tour. I think it's wonderful. Like they both did some of my favourite bits of their respective bands. So to have them together is really nice.
Yeah.
What else? I don't know. I'm sometimes pretty bad at finding new music, and then I'll find loads all at once. On the last tour, I discovered they're not new particularly, but they kind of slipped through my fingers. But I finally heard and then bought the We Were Promised Jetpacks record. I really dig that. Like I feel kind of like I should have stayed in Scotland sometimes. Like there's suddenly this, you know, when I was growing up there's nothing really. Idlewild was the band, and then there's like Travis, and you were just like, oh. And you had just people like Snow Patrol kind of kicking around, but equally, I mean, yeah, whatever. But I just felt like, nothing's going to happen here, you know, like I just got to go, if I wanted to do music, I've got to look in England, look at London, basically. And in the last couple of years, you've had Frightened Rabbit and Twilight Sad and We Were Promised Jetpacks, and suddenly there's like, and it's kind of my generation, I guess. I mean, maybe some of those guys are a bit older, but I feel like maybe I should have stuck around and seen what could have happened. So. Regret.
So what does the next year have in store?
Sure. Well, we are going to do some Christmas shows, I think, in December. I'll be going back to work come Sunday, as will everyone else. But apart from that dull stuff, I think we're working on new songs already. I've been writing stuff in bits and pieces on tour, and then hopefully we'll do some recording with a view to maybe a new kind of release in the new year.
Right, what have you written?
I've got some stuff written. We need to kind of work it through as a band, but we want to basically just don't want it to be as long as it was last time. You know, we're being quite proactive about making sure that doesn't happen. I think, I mean, there'll be more touring and stuff, and hopefully we can get the record out in Europe and further afield. But I think we've Freud coming out as a single in America next month. It's bizarre.
So, do you think you will be able to get that release through by the end of 25?
Yeah. I think there'll definitely be something next year. So, hopefully in the first 4 or 5 months. You know, I don't think it'll be an album, but I think it might be EP or mini album or some sort of fun thing. Okay. Do you have one more? Or, yeah. I'll be through.
What do you think in the last like 5 or 6 years being Tellison? What do you think? What has it taught you about writing and making indie music in the UK?
Oh my god. Okay. I guess you start off very kind of naive and hopeful, and positive, and my kind of entrance into this world has coincided with the world collapsing, being set on fire from every corner, and that it's very easy to get very cynical and feel embittered. Like, I know so many people who've been in bands and basically quit. Like, I feel like most of our peer group, you know, bands that were started or were around when we were starting, don't exist anymore. Those people have proper jobs, and if they come to shows, which they often don't, because they hate it because of you know what happens. You know, and it's tough. Like, I think it's pretty made me, all of us, quite strong and stubborn. But there's been an awful lot of heartache and difficult decisions and sacrifices to be made, because there's not really a career. You know, like I say, I've got to go and work in a cinema for the next 3 months to look forward to have done this. Like, and when you're shoveling popcorn for like 7th day in a row, you're like, what am I doing? Like, it's not good. You know? And you know, when you're having a shitty show, it really can feel pretty bad. But I think that is just when you're kind of at a low point, you kind of come back round and you think, you know, there are massive positives. And you know, when you have a great show, you just think this is way better than doing anything else. And you do meet people along the road who are kind of go, oh, I wish I was doing what you're doing. And you're kind of going, well, you have a house, you know, you've got a nice TV and a car, and you're going to sleep in your bed tonight. And, like, I wish I had what you had, you know. And I still feel pretty lucky to be able to do it. I remember the idea of just even playing a show. I remember coming to Southampton to see my friend's band play in a pub, and coming past during this and being like, wow, imagine playing here. And that's fucking doing it. Like, I've played here a few times. We played the freaking Guildhall with Biffy Cleric. Like, it's mad. So I think it's taught me to, despite the difficult times, and there are many, to stick to your guns because the payoffs, I guess, are worth it. It sounds so cliche, doesn't it?
That's kind of noble way of thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to think like that, because otherwise you quit and you just feel awful, and like you've wasted coming up on 6 years. And I don't think it's been a waste. I think I've done some great stuff. I was thinking about like talking to someone at a show, and I was like, oh, it's so great, you know, there's a girl and she like works the NHS, and you're actually giving something back. But then Ben, who's our tour manager, who used to be in a band called Encyclopedia, who's very good. He was like, well, you know, you make records and stuff, and people listen to those. Like, I'm in no way comparing being in a band to working for the NHS, like doing, but equally, like, you can forget that, you know, your music does exist in other people's lives. You never see that side of things, and I think I guess I'm still kind of figuring it out, and I probably sound more sure of myself now than I really am, I think. But yeah, I mean, I guess I've learned the value of that, and despite it all, it's just still what I want to do. You know, I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't want to do like an accountancy conversion course or something. I just want to be in a band and write songs, and if I get to do that half the year, quarter of the year, I'll still do it. So. Tough question, dude. That was a terrible answer, but yeah, I've got to go and